I've got 2:32, so I'll call our Nash County June the 19th, 2:30 meeting to order. Appreciate everyone being here. It seems to be extremely hot in here to me, and we're working on it, and it may just be me, I don't know. Everybody's head shaking, so it must well be hot. We begin our meeting with an invocation. Ms. Wells, could you lead us in that, please?
Now, fathers, we come together today. God, we come together united in one thing, and that's to do what's best for Nash County. God, we know that times we do not agree, but we all do agree that we want what's best. Just be with each one that's here today. God, just bless us, keep us close to you, and give us a safe trip home. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. If my memory serves us right, and correct me real quick if I'm wrong, Ms. Dorsey, is this the last meeting that you may be with us?
It very likely is, unless you all call one between now and July 7th. Just for you.
I just wanted to say that up front, and we're going to work through a little bit of the agenda, and then we're going to address this, but I wanted everyone to be able to cherish their time with her. That's it, may well be her last meeting, or we might just call a special meeting just so we can be with her one more time. I don't know. That's how much I think we all regret it. But as we were notified last week, we have moved forward and looking certainly to the future. Stacy, tickled to death that you're going to be with us, and the board looks forward to working with you. I'm sure it will be a smooth transition, and Rosemary's going to leave you everything she knows when she walks out the door. But we'll get into that just a little bit later. First of all, item 3 on the agenda, which is where we are, is a presentation by Tri-County Industries, an organization in the Tri-County area that we have known for many, many, many years. In fact, I think I've got a picture at home in about 1966 or 1967 of me playing in a band for one of their banquets. And I'll bring that to you sometime, Brendan, and show it to you, just to give you a real good laugh. But I can't remember what year it started. 66, okay. Well, it might have been 67 then. But an organization does great work, and Brendan, we welcome you here today to be with us, and we'll turn it over to you.
Okay, do you want me to sit here or go up there?
Maybe come up here.
Okay.
But do you have something behind me? Or
I do not.
You do
Everything
not.
we
Great.
have washed away.
I understand.
So I just thought I'd, first of all, thank you for your support.
Will you make yourself at home and just like you're among the Nash County folks, because that's what you are.
That's exactly right. I live right here in Nashville, so. But thank you so much. I'm always so proud to come and share what we do, because I just have the best job in the world, because I love the clients that we serve. And Robbie is right, we started in June 1966 when some parents whose children were aging out of school, and they, at that time the terminology was mental retardation. They knew that their children would not be going off to school or being able to get a job, so they started Rocky Mount Sheltered Workshop, and it was down on Church Street in a warehouse. I was not around then, but we have just truly grown over the years. We now serve over 500 people a year, and we started out serving 5, I believe it was. We have a staff of 148. And people are surprised by that, but in addition to what we do at our Atlantic Avenue location, we man rest areas on I-95 in Nash County and in Johnston County, on I-40 in Johnston County, and we also now do the Welcome Center up in Northampton County. And with those rest areas, it's mandated that 75% of our employees be individuals with disabilities. And I'm so proud to say that we average 93%. And so individuals, when you stop at those rest areas, those individuals are individuals that are now not receiving taxpayers' dollars, but are actually employed full-time with benefits. We took over the Northampton one a year ago, And it's funny because the state operated that one. And Jimmy Parrish from State DOT called me and said, I just have to tell you this story. He said, there's this elderly lady that stops by there to go visit her grandchildren, and she would always call and complain about the condition of the rest area. And since you've taken it over, she calls me and says, Mr. Parrish, I don't know what you did differently, but that place is so clean now, and it smells so good. And so it just makes me really proud to get those kinds of compliments. And in addition to that, we have folks in Rocky Mount Engine Plant and in Draka Elevator Products. We also clean a few offices in Rocky Mount. And all of our off-sites, we have a very strong mixture of individuals with disabilities working right along, just hourly folks that we hire. But what your real interest is, I hope, is what we do at our facility on Atlantic Avenue. We serve about 100 individuals a day. We have short-term training programs and long-term training programs. Our short-term program, we bring individuals in and we do a complete vocational assessment to determine their strengths and weaknesses to employment. And at the end of that period, we take the results from how they've done on tests, but also we observe work behaviors. We do subcontract work for different companies, from very simple kitting jobs to we build wiring harnesses. And so we also do work that some of the product goes into John Deere. We do work for Pfizer. We package rags. And because of the types of individuals we serve, it's important that we have very simple work to work that's pretty difficult so that we can find out what people's strengths and weaknesses are. But anyway, we do their assessment, and if we feel like they have potential for employment, then they may go into our short-term training program, and we partner with the community colleges to provide some classes and work very specifically for them. We don't get paid for that program unless they leave us with a job or ready for a job. And in that program, we serve individuals with all kinds of disabilities, physical, mental, and emotional, and substance abuse. And so a lot of times we work with someone for 6 months in that program and they relapse. And so we get no payment for anything that we have done with them. And we have job coaches that go out and help find jobs and actually work with individuals on the jobs if they need that. And we provide long-term support as long as they need us to be checking on them to make sure they're successful, because that's what it's about. We want them to be successful. We want Tri-County to be a stepping stone for them instead of sitting home and all. And then the program that is really why we got started and is most dear to my heart is our Adult Developmental Vocational Program. And in that program, those individuals have to live in Nash or Edgecombe County. We have 32 Nash County residents in that program and 31 Edgecombe County residents. And this is where they will work. Their families can go to work every day and know that their adult child with a significant intellectual disability is at Tri-County, that they're working, that they're safe. And I can tell you that if everybody had their work ethic, we would all have wonderful workplaces, because they never want to miss work. They don't like it if it snows. They get really upset if they can't come. We have one person, when his family's going on vacation, they'll call me and say, Brenda, we're going to be out next week, but don't tell John, because he won't want to go. And every day when he gets up on vacation, it's, am I going back to work tomorrow? Am I going back to work tomorrow? And we're able to pay them under a special wage certificate. So they are paid on their individual productivity. And we have to do time studies and surveys of local companies. And so if they are 100% productive, then they're making $8 and $9 an hour. And we do have some people in our short-term program that do that. One of the new ventures that we've just started with our long-term clients is, we just started this last month, we're picking up trash for the city of Rocky Mount at 4 interchanges off of 64. They're not on the bypass, they're down at the interchanges, and so we have a staff person that takes 3 individuals out. They are paid minimum wage. Anytime we do any work out of our building, we pay our individuals minimum wage. And they're so excited to get to do this. This morning, they had on their orange vest and their hat and their thing and their gloves, and they were just so excited that they were going to get to go out and do something new. So we're excited for that partnership. You know, I think most of you know we were impacted by the hurricane in October, and we pretty much lost everything. We had 18 inches of water in the building. We were able to go in on the Saturday before. We raised up our computers, so we saved all those except for one. And then on Sunday morning, when water was beginning to rise, my husband and I went in and we pulled out all the active client files, all the personnel files. He has a Suburban. I don't think we could have got another piece of paper in it. So, but anyway, we were able to save all that. We were out of commission for the clients for 2 weeks, and I can tell you that was very devastating for some of them. I called every client that we served and gave them my cell phone number so that they could stay in touch and so their parents could stay in touch with me and keep up our progress. And we immediately started looking for a place to move, and you know, it had to be accessible, and we looked at a couple of places. One place wanted $10,000 a month rent. Well, we can't afford that. So luckily, I was standing in the parking lot and looked down there at the Enco building, and I called Mr. Parker, DeLeon Parker, and he allowed us to use that building for free. We just had to get the HVAC going and do some plumbing. So if you know him, be sure and tell him what a great guy he is to have done that. And I am so happy to report that as of May, we moved back home. And we are all so excited to have space now. Some of us, I don't have a desk yet. My desk drawer is a paper box top, and but I want to make sure that we've gotten some things donated. So anybody that has any extra furniture will take it, because we had $500,000 on our building. And our expenses just to get the building back in order is $694,000. And so anything that we can save, we're not, you know, we're just getting by and trying not to spend money. We still haven't, we're working with FEMA. We haven't gotten any financial assistance yet from them, but we're hoping that we will. But you know, and it's the little things for our clients that means so much to them. Like in the temporary building, we didn't have break rooms. They had to sit at the same place all day. And also, we have a senior room for those in our long-term program that are getting older. We've had individuals up to 80 years old. And a few years ago, I was thinking, you know, when I'm 80, I might not want to come to work every day. So I was able to write a grant, and we set up a senior room. So if you're 55 and older and you're in that long-term program, you can go back there and drink coffee, watch TV, put together a puzzle or whatever. And so, of course, we lost everything in that room. And when we told them we were moving back, one of the girls said, "You mean I can start drinking coffee again?" And I said, "You sure can." So our first day back, I went up to her at the end of the day and I said, "Well, Nancy, how was the coffee?" And she said, "I had 4 cups. It was so good." So it's just those little things that, you know, it means so much that they are so appreciative of what we do. And I just, you know, I want to thank you for your support. I will say, with our funding, and I know there's issues with East Point and Trillium, East Point has cut off our funding again. You know, we have last year, for the first year, they put a money amount in our contract for our ADVP services. However, they authorize services, And so they authorize services for individuals to receive what we call 124 units a week from July 1st to June 30th. And we, year before last now, we took in the participants that had been in the Nash Community College program. And so in May, we meet the max on our contract. And last year, when that happened, they were continuous to pay us, so I wrote them a letter and said, could you amend our contract, because I want our audit to be a clean audit, and I want my audit amount, my contract amount to equal what I received. Well, they immediately cut off our funding and would not pay us. So I've reached that again this year. I was hoping if we moved over to Trillium in April, I wouldn't have gotten to that point. But I have written a letter to Sarah Stroud asking her again, and this time I told her, you know, we absorbed that last year. We can't do it this year with the flood expenses. So Lisa, if you hear anything, please put in a plug for us, and because we can certainly use that money. So, but I appreciate all your support, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Yes, one. You're located in a flood zone. Is there any thought of moving or building levees or something that protect that?
Well, first of all, we own that building, so it'd be hard for us to go and buy another building, because nobody's going to buy that one knowing it's going to be flooded. I did mention to FEMA about a levee, and they told me that was an ugly word to them. What we have done, though, to help mitigate it, all the HVAC units now have been raised high above the flood level. Also, when we redid our floors, instead of painting the work floor, we had it stripped and just polished, so that now if we get water in there, we can just wash it down. All of our sockets have been raised, so that, you know, hopefully we won't have that kind of damage again. You know, a few weeks ago when it was raining so hard and water was rising, we sealed all the doors with wax, and then, you know, put sandbags and plastic, but thankfully nothing got in the building. But we would love to move, but we just simply can't afford it.
Yeah, I was in Tennessee last weekend. I noticed the rest stops, the handicap was working. I know one came up to me and to let me know I work here.
Uh-huh.
And we keep this place up. And so I asked a few questions, and they were in similar programs. And there were 2 or 3 of them working there, because there was one supervisor. I assume he was sitting in the office. And
Our supervisors don't have offices, they work. I mean, not that supervisors don't work, but I'm saying ours are out there.
I think this was probably the DOT. person.
They're a supervisor.
Yeah.
I got a letter just Friday. Somebody with the Department of Defense stopped at the rest area in Northampton County. They were headed to Georgia, and they lost their wallet in the restroom. And our attendant immediately found it and gave it to the supervisor, and he tracked down through Department of Defense, and the individual got to mile marker 122 on 95 when he was contacted. And he wrote me a letter and said he was an inspector with Department of Defense, and that's literally saved his job because all his credentials were in his wallet. And he wanted to thank our employees for being so quick so that he was close enough to turn around and get that. So it's a great, great opportunity the rest areas are. I tell DOT, you know, my sister agencies across the state, a lot have stopped doing work for DOT because it was important for them to make a lot of profit. And while it's nice to make money, I just tell DOT, I'm going to bid so that I'm not paying you to let me do it, but what we do to help the individuals is what it's all about to me. So I'm not going to outbid. I'm not going to make it so big that I'm going to lose the contract, because then I would have a lot of people out of work. And that's my philosophy behind that.
Other questions? Brenda, thank you a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do every day.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I have the best job. I love coming to work, and you know that's the best part.
You got a whole building full of folks that love coming to work, didn't
I certainly do. I certainly do. Thank you.
All right, item 4 on our agenda, would be, inside department, and that's Brian Brantley, Director.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Rosemary was asking for volunteers to come to the meeting to talk about their department. And I said, well, I'll volunteer. And I got to thinking about, y'all have heard me as of a couple of weeks ago. Some of you have heard me for 30-some years. Mr. Belfield, you've been around, Ms. Richardson, Ms. Wells, and I think Mr. Cone and Lisa are probably the newest one. But I said, maybe they've heard me too much. And I got to thinking about a young man that went to work for us a couple of years ago from Spring Hope, which is my hometown. And I found out there is a magna cum laude from Spring Hope. I never, and it was not me, Rosemary. You're right. But I did find out if you were from Spring Hope, you could get that award. And he did. We have 2 magna cum laudes working for us, one from NC State and one from Western Carolina. So congratulations on that. But he had done some work and showed us several months ago on his own, and we have been concerned, y'all have heard me talk about the call volume in Nash County for Nash EMS and how it had really drastically increased the last several years. And he did some demographics on Nash County, and I got to thinking, I said, wonder if Dalton would come and do the presentation for the commissioners. And of course, he said he would. So I would like to introduce him. Dalton is from Spring Hope, graduated from Southern Nash, attended Western Carolina, magna cum laude, bachelor's degree in emergency medical care, health management in 16, now a paramedic on C shift, and has been involved with us for 3 years. He was a captain of the Western Carolina EMS service. They had an ambulance on campus, and Dalton got to understand some management principles there. So he has done a great job for us, and so I'm going to turn it over to Dalton.
Thank you, Mr. Brantley. Yes, sir. I've actually got some papers for you guys because I know it's going to be tough to see the slideshow, so if you wouldn't mind passing those around. There's a couple for y'all. I've got some extra ones if we run out, but good afternoon, everybody. Like you said, my name's Dalton, and this is my PowerPoint. What you're seeing on your paper is basically the same that's on the screen. I'll let those shift around a little bit, but just kind of an overview. Since I came to work for Nash County, I kind of wanted to do some research for myself to understand the environment in which I was working in and kind of get a better grasp on, like you said, call volume and what we've noticed over the last couple of years with increased call volume and seeing how we kind of compare to other places. Because when I went to Western, I had the intention to come back and work for Nash County, and thankfully there was a job in which I could do that. But we'll get started. Is this okay? Cool, good deal. I've titled this "The System Comparison of Volume Fiscal Efficiency." So mainly the 2 things we're going to be talking about is dollar bills and money, as well as call volume in Nash County. All these figures that we'll be talking about are coming from the year 2015. The fiscal year. What I did, it took about 6 months to do, but I emailed, there was probably about 150 people on my email list all through the state of North Carolina to try to get 100 counties involved in this statewide study that I did, but I was only able to get 20 counties. So we got 1/5 of North Carolina, which is still a good number. It was more than I was expecting, but less than I was hoping for. But some of the counties couldn't be used because they were private services or there were multiple EMS agencies that worked in that county. The EMS director didn't know his numbers. So this is all limited to the EMS director or the emergency manager, the figures that I'm getting. To start off with, I've got a comparison that I used with to try to figure out which counties are similar. So what county is Nash most similar to? I use population, for instance. We're most similar to Cleveland and Moore counties. They're within 3,000 to 5,000 citizens of what Nash County is. We rank 10th, so we're the 10th most populated county that we studied. All this is collected from the U.S. Census. Our density is similar to Johnston County, which is not too far from here, Cleveland County, Brunswick. We ranked 8th in the most populated with density. And then property tax rates to kind of see where we lined up with that as well. You know, what kind of EMS agency can we afford? We're 0.67 here, so we ranked at 8th highest property tax value, close to Halifax and Cleveland. So with that, I come to our next category here, which should be the next page on your handout. This is where I started getting into the busyness of Nash EMS. How many calls are we doing? So 27,744 is our total call volume. We were the third busiest county that we studied in North Carolina. Just below us is Buncombe, so that's Asheville. We were busier than Asheville, busier than Smithfield or Johnston County. All the other counties that were close to Nash as far as population density and property tax values, we were the first or the most busy system compared to those. A lot of these counties were more populated than us as well. That's kind of important to note. However, Guilford was the highest call volume that we had studied. Kind of a tool that I use to see how we were being utilized is my formula for EMS utilization per citizen. I understand that not every citizen is calling EMS, and we had a 3.39. So basically what I did, I took total call volume and divided that into our population. We get some travelers on 495 or 64 or whatever you'd like to call that, but that's probably not statistically significant for inflation of our call volume as far as travelers. So mainly all these people are calling 911 because they live in Nash County. We were the most utilized service that we studied. So for every 3.5 citizens almost, we were getting an EMS call. So we can expect if we grow 6 citizens, we should expect almost 2 more EMS calls. Whereas Johnston County, our neighbor, every 8.5 citizens are calling there. So we're being utilized more in Nash County than Halifax, Cleveland, Moore, Brunswick, all the other counties included. So we were the most utilized system. Also, I took call volume per ambulance per day. This was to kind of understand how our crews are servicing the environment. How many calls are they running in a shift? We work 24-hour shifts here in Nash County. We were the 4th busiest system that we studied. We were busier than Durham County ambulances. We were busier than Halifax, than Johnston County as well. So we were running almost 7 calls a day in Nash County. We are the 2nd busiest 24-hour system that was studied. Buncombe County is also a 24-hour truck, but Durham County runs 12s, Iredell, Guilford is 12s, Jackson is 24, Cleveland, Brunswick also are 12s, Henderson's 12. So we are running more in a 24-hour shift than most people are running in their 12-hour shift. That's what we gathered from that. Next is our monetary study. This is where we kind of looked at our EMS budget and compared that to the other counties. We were the 7th most funded EMS organization that we studied, just underneath Buncombe and just higher than Cleveland. Johnston County had a little bit more than half or 200% of what we got. So they're getting funded twice more. Guilford was the highest, and Ashe County got the lowest. Ashe County and Pamlico were the lowest. Pamlico's towards the beach and Ashe is in the mountains. Harris EMS in Jackson County, this is a private organization that we were able to study. This is run by Duke Life Points Hospital there. So we took the total call volume and divided that by our budget, and we were able to place value as far as dollar bills on our per call expenditure. So this is kind of what we're spending every time an EMS unit gets toned out or responds to an EMS call. we're spending about $240 every time somebody calls 911 for an ambulance. Johnston County spending about $600 every time one of those ambulances run. So by this, we were the most efficient agency studied. The closest one would be Guilford. They were within, almost 20 to 30 bucks of us. We were more efficient than Jackson, which I mentioned was the private service. So Nash County is more efficient than a private ambulance service for profit. I thought that was pretty interesting. And then as far as disparities, the reason I wanted to look at this was kind of why are we getting utilized so much? Is it an education problem? Is it a health insurance problem? What's going on to understand how we can cut down on 911 usage in Nash County? Because it would be foolish to say that the citizens in Nash County are sicker than the ones in Halifax or in Wilson or something like that. We're all, in North Carolina, eastern North Carolina, we all have access to barbecue and stuff like that. So we shouldn't be getting, we shouldn't be less healthy than counties surrounding. So basically what I looked...
That was one question I was going to ask you at the end. I said, what significance is happening that where Nash County is ranking?
That's a good question, because that was my question. That was the whole point of me understanding to do this research project. I had no idea, and I wanted to learn what's going on. I'll get to that in just a second after I get through the disparities and tell you what I found out. So the disparities, I looked at household income, poverty level, health insurance, and we ranked 9th highest in annual household income. And if you look at this, we're closer to the top as far as money than we are the bottom. We're 16,000 away or 15,000 away from being at the top, and we're almost, 16,000 from being at the bottom. Same deal with poverty level. We were closer to the least poverty level than we were the most impoverished. Halifax County had almost 28% of the population impoverished, and Johnston County had 13%. We're 5.1% away from being down here. So we're pretty close to being less impoverished. The percentage without health insurance, we ranked 13th, which we would want to be least here. We would want to be more close to 20 than we would to number 1. So Duplin County, 23.2 people were without health insurance. In Nash County, we had 15.4. And Cleveland, we were within 1.3% of being the lowest. So Cleveland County had the lowest, and they were 14.1. So looking at that, we have, most of our citizens have health insurance. Most, I guess we would say we're middle ways when we talk about poverty level, so we're doing decent there. We're a little bit less impoverished as Durham County, just within 1%. And household income is about middle of the ground there, so kind of what I concluded is I have no idea. So I did, 6 months of work for some very interesting statistics. However, my original goal, I still have no idea. But that hasn't stopped me yet. I'm looking at some ways to try to understand why, because there's got to be some sort of reasoning somewhere, some sort of logic. I just haven't been able to figure out. Maybe if I'd have gone to Eastern Carolina or something like that, maybe I'd have been able to figure that out, right? But on your last page, I just got my comparisons and conclusions kind of all together. First goes back to that first category. We're most similar to Cleveland, Johnston, Brunswick, and Halifax, as well as Moore, that were our sister counties. Call volume, we were the 3rd most busy system and the 10th most populated. We were the most utilized 911 agency in the study. And then our ambulance crews are busier than 75% of the ambulance crews involved in the study. We ranked number 7 in overall budget, but we ranked number 3 in total amount of calls. We were the most efficient organization studied, and one more thing is we spent the least amount per EMS call. And then the disparity section, we had no obvious correlations between demographics and utilization of the EMS system. So, do y'all have any questions for me? I know it's a lot of information at once, a lot of numbers.
Dawson, you figure on without health insurance at 15.4%. Seems to be god awful low to me. Is that, I guess, Medicare or Medicaid is considered health insurance?
I think so, yeah.
In the way you looked at it.
That's right. Because I think those patients still have access to like the OIC. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that right, Brandon? Medicare, Medicaid can still have access to primary care.
Okay.
So that was my way to kind of figure out: are these people going to the emergency room as a mean of primary care, or do they just not have access?
Okay. So that would explain it.
Right.
Thank you. Other questions?
Yeah, Johnston County call volume is it's 6,000 less than Nash's call volume, with double the population of Nash. What do you attribute that to?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Would that contribute to their cost being greater? I mean, they've got the services available, but they're not getting the calls.
Right, and they have a they have quite a significant more amount of admin staff than we do. So, and they're also running the 12-hour shifts. So, here in Nash County, we only have 3 shifts. They have another shift that they have to pay. In EMS, that's mainly what we're paying most of our money on is salary, and with them having to pay another shift and a lot of admin folks, that's probably why we're seeing they're spending $600 per call. You know, that's probably why that's so high.
Would it be any private operators left in Johnston County that would decrease that number possibly?
And that, if, you know, 4 Oaks EMS and 5210, or I think it's what it's called, they're running calls as well, but these were the numbers that they sent to me that just Johnston County EMS was running.
Yeah, so you would almost have to know that way and know what was really going on. Because some of these counties could have, like we were at one time, many private individuals.
Right.
Have that, and doesn't that kind of
That would exclude
complete
Johnston
picture?
County. That's right.
That's true.
That's right with Johnston County. That's
It's
right.
gotta be something, because
Yeah,
you
you can't have
this
double
way.
the population and
I
that
wouldn't-
significant amount
wouldn't
less
think so.
calls.
Well, let's go back
I
here.
wouldn't think.
Unless y'all are just so nice when you go
let's
get
see.
someone that they want you to come back again.
I hope we are.
But I mean, there's various. Henderson County is the only EMS organization in that county, as well as Durham, Pamlico. That's the only EMS agency. Most of these agencies are the single most. Or Buncombe County and Johnston, they do have various agencies that operate there. But Jackson County, the only other EMS provider there is Western Carolina EMS and Glenville Cashers. But
And you hadn't made any adjustment for that kind of thing in this study?
we were unable to because they ran. If we go back to see how many calls that, for instance, Harris EMS is running. Harris EMS, does anybody have that pulled up? Might not. Jackson. All right, 52,000 or 5,200 calls. Western Carolina EMS ran about 150 calls. So as far as statistical significance,
Not a lot.
there's not a lot to place value on there.
Other thoughts, questions?
Yeah, I would certainly would be interested to know why we're getting
That's right. That's right. I
the
think
number calls above.
I'm planning that the new study I'm planning on doing hopefully is going to look at more along the lines of like high school education, maybe some things like that. Because I think education is probably playing in a factor more so than poverty level.
Well, and then to a healthy clientele, it could be that in Johnson County, that people are a little bit more healthier than they are over here in Nash County and don't have to,
Maybe so.
don't have to get the call, don't have to
right.
call EMS.
Right. So it'll be interesting to find that out.
And I think aging population too.
Yeah.
And
That'd
I
be a good one.
suspect in Nash County, the aging population is higher than it is in Johnston County. So they're close to the research triangle, and a lot of young people live in Johnston County, work in the research triangle.
True.
Clayton, that area.
Yeah.
Good point.
Well, I wanted to thank Dalton for doing it. We've been looking at it and trying to figure it out. I think, even at one of y'all's retreats a few years ago, y'all remember we talked about the aging population, and I think that's one thing Dalton's gonna look a little closer at. Brandon has done some research with the community paramedic program on after the affordable health care, that Nash County has 1,700 and some citizens per family physician in the county. So after the affordable health care, less access to physicians because there's so many people trying to get in to see physicians, they're going to emergency rooms. That's something we want to look at as well. And of course, hopefully the community medic program is going to address some of that. But we've been looking at it, and really it's about a 30% increase over the last 7 years, 8 years in the ambulance call volume. But we appreciated him jumping on this without any guidance, and the only thing when I was going through reading it several months ago, I was hoping he was gonna have some answer for me at the end that really explained it. But we feel sure he's gonna continue and help us all out. But I appreciate it,
We'll
Doc.
work on it.
Well, it's good information.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's right, it
Absolutely.
is.
Right.
And a lot of good contacts he's made, because talking to other counties is always a real benefit,
Learn
learning.
you can take the information and continue to
Yes, sir.
try to figure out some of the answers.
I think it's a problem everybody's facing right now anyways. I think this is not just Nash County problem.
I mean, there's not much difference in health insurance between Nash and Johnson. They've got, a little better coverage than we do, but not significant.
Right.
I mean, the aging population may be something to do with it, but I don't understand why they would have, double population and we'd have that significant increase in calls compared to them.
Well, that number of utilization per citizen, and we've been number one on the county study, if you could determine why that is, everything else would fall back into line.
Right.
If you could figure that out and correct,
That's
you could
Right.
see that very easily.
I think with that, you would have to hit it hard with either education or start refusing transporting people, which is something that EMS hasn't quite gotten to yet. We can't control who calls 911, and we have to provide transport for somebody who requests it. Whether they sneezed one time and they told us they wanted to go to the hospital, we would have to take them.
I'd be interested in for instance, Durham County, what their policy was on that, being at 8.31, and we're 3.39. Do they refuse some calls? Would be one thing I think I would look at.
Didn't I hear some word that Durham County or in the city of Durham, if it's a non-emergency thing, like they need to go to emergency room or whatever it's called, they pay for a cab, would that come out of that cost?
I don't know about Durham. I know Chapel Hill has a treat and release, basically. They'll go to a house and on a 911 call, and if they don't feel like you need to go to the emergency room, they just treat you and they release you. But we don't. If our paramedic knows a lot of times this person really doesn't need to go to the hospital, but we care.
Can you
That's just
make
not-
that judgment on the scene that you?
The only problem I've heard is
It
if y'all
seems to me
remember.
there's great
Orange County-
liability with that.
You do, and that's one reason I've tried to
It
stay
don't
away
take,
from
it don't take to lose but one of them in a
That's right.
lawsuit.
If y'all remember, a few years ago, there was a 16-year-old football player from Chapel Hill High School, I believe.
Right.
Orange County responded, they didn't treat him, or didn't transport him, and I think he died at home. And that was a big issue. The paramedic lost his certification, it's a big issue. That's one reason I've been scared to death of it.
Now, I don't know how you can refuse not to transport, I mean, without some great liability there. That's-
Well, it's gotta be something different that we are doing.
We're not gonna give up.
Yeah,
I promise. We're
I'll
trying to-
certainly give up, for sure. But thank y'all, great information. Item 5 on the agenda is an update from our county engineer, Mike Tolson, on you recall at our last meeting, we approved, or meeting before last, we actually approved some updates at the Ag Center with the contingency that we would be brought back and updated on a comparative bid on what we approved to be done there. And Mr. Tolson?
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. It turned out to be a very good idea to go out and get a second quote because the second quote's come in. I'm still waiting on a couple of qualifying numbers from the installer because the quote we got in was just for equipment at the time. But I've been given a ballpark number of that's about $12,000 lower than our first bid, so it's going to save us some money to have gone back for a second bid. I don't have that concrete number yet, but I can tell you that we are going to save around $10,000 to $12,000 by the time it's all said and done. So that's done. We've walked the site with them. Don't think there's any surprises on it. So look forward to moving forward with it with you very soon.
And we decided we were doing cameras, but they did not want card systems. Is that what I remember?
Yes.
It's been correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I may be asking something you hadn't.
Well,
got a grasp on.
we haven't talked about card systems out there. The only thing these quotes are for is for cameras.
Right, I think it got determined prior to you taking
Yes,
this.
sir.
Okay. Update on camera. You have the next item as well, Mike.
I do.
Middlesex Corporate Center Shell Building, and designating, changing the designee for the record engineer.
Yes, sir. We're required by statute to list a designated design professional, on-staff design professional. As you know, Derek Hawks was listed before. I think you guys named him that in March with his absence, and I have the same qualifications that Derek did as far as licensure and certifications. And so I'm submitting my name for you guys to designate me as the design professional on the site. I'll review, shop drawings and shop submittals and act in a supporting role for the contracts.
All right, I guess we need a motion to do that. Entertain a motion to change that designation from Derek to Mike. Moved by Ms. Wells, second by Mr. Bellfield. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, item 7, is a budget amendment. Ms. Wood,
No,
excuse me.
number 7, personnel policy. Is it still in yours? Did you take that up?
She gave me a new one. Maybe I'm on the old one, I'm sorry.
We added a couple of minor things.
Add more to what I had. Okay, I'm good. Y'all got to quit doing that to me. Okay.
Or throw away your old.
Well, I prepared my notes on the old one, and then y'all give me a new one to give, but that's quite all right. We can adjust quickly. Next item then is item 7, amendment to the personnel policy. Ms. Lane, you're up here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Good afternoon. Good. I'm coming before you this afternoon on behalf of the Personnel Policy Committee. And you may remember actually December 2015, we presented some recommended updates. And at that time, you changed the reclassification promotion policy to include a maximum 15% salary increase. We've had an opportunity to award some promotions, and we've identified some problems that have occurred. The 15% increase has resulted in inequities in some units. It has resulted in salary compression. And then there are some times when the 15% salary increase is just not feasible based on the employee's education experience levels. So what I'm asking is, effective immediately, if we can change the policy for a promotion and a reclassification when the employee is moving to a higher salary grade, to award the employee the hiring rate of the new salary grade or 5% salary increase, whichever is greater.
If you would.
Yeah.
I'm not quite caught up.
Yeah, yeah, this was new to when we adopted the new personnel policy. This was a new provision. It was made in order to mirror the demotion percentages. You'll see there that if someone is demoted or voluntarily or based on disciplinary action, this was already in the policy. The thought of the committee at the time was promotion should mirror it, but the problem is it's caused some leapfrogging. People maybe with 8 years experience would get promoted and they would go up 4, 5, 6 grades. And under this policy, they'd be guaranteed 15% increase, and they would leapfrog the amount over other people. If they had moved down the scale, say on a 68, so they were making a certain amount of money, and then they took a new position, say 5 grades greater, then they would get 5% plus 3% plus 3% plus 1% for a maximum of 15%. That has had the effect in some cases of paying them more than people, say, with 20, 25 years experience. And
Same thing.
yeah.
In larger departments. I
Right.
see where that happens.
Now, what this does is, this says it's 5%. Based on education, experience, qualifications, the county manager, in consulting the department head, has the authority to go up another 10%. So if it's necessary to in that position, I don't want to do that wholesale. We want it to be 5% or the minimum at that grade as much as possible. But we still have some flexibility, changing it back to the way it was before the policy was changed about 1.5, 2 years ago.
Is it going back like it was, or a hybrid between the two?
I think it was.
Just like it
Just like it
was.
was.
Mhm.
Is Mr. Belfield?
Is every disciplinary action require reducing the salary by 5%?
No.
No,
That's why I want to make that clear.
No. If someone voluntarily takes a demotion, sometimes people are uncomfortable in their position.
Yeah,
They moved up, and
yeah, I
then they say,
understand
this
that.
isn't for me, and they go back to the former position, then that's a demotion. Also, if there are cases where someone is promoted and then they're demoted based on job performance. In those cases, we reduce their salary. This was really from the DSS prior to them becoming part of our system. But that's the way it was. The committee said, let's mirror it on promotion, but that has not turned out to be an equitable solution. So we're looking to go back to the policy it was before, and admitting our mistake, that we probably should have kept it just like it was, because it has created several times it's created a situation where someone gets a promotion, 5, 10 years experience, and this policy puts them making more than people with 20, 25 years experience.
Is that the same position? I got you.
Yeah, same position.
Right.
Same position.
Just certainly not a requirement, just out of curiosity. You had a committee that worked on that and made those presentations to it. Did the committee itself relook at it, or is this an admin?
I requested the committee to look at it.
Okay. And they have looked at it and okay with it. Other questions?
So there's another policy that gives the manager the flexibility to throw 10% addition.
Right.
So
That's
it's
in
not
the
in-
policy. That's not addressed.
Been there for many years, Wayne, on that particular one.
Well, actually, it was clarified. It was.
Yeah.
It was a reasonable amount or something. It was
Yeah.
vague.
It was.
Now it's a
10%.
maximum of 10%.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion to make this amendment to the personnel policy.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Richardson, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Wells. Any questions? Sure you got no questions? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Thank you.
Thank you.
On new agenda, we're now on item 8, which is a budget amendment by Ms. Wood.
I actually have 2 budget amendments for year end. The first one is for transfers. This amendments to transfer funds for school capital projects, to reserve funds for the future renovation of the early college, and also to the park capital project, to reserve additional funds for the construction of the Play Together Park. These fund transfers are available primarily due to additional revenue received but not budgeted from ad valorem tax and Article 44, additional sales tax, which is to be used for public education, community college, or economic development. But we're going to reserve this for the early college for public education.
Did you pass those out?
Yes.
I didn't get one. Okay.
And just for budgeting purposes, for budget transaction purposes, I have these funds requested from fund balance, and it's $750,000 for the school capital project, which for the early college, and $250,000 for the county capital projects, which is the Play Together Park. It's $1 million transfer.
Mr. Lamb?
Yeah, as we have done each of the last 4 years, at the end of the year, we look at where our fund balance is. This year, y'all did cut the fund balance appropriated for the general fund from 2.8 to 1.8 in anticipation of a bad revow. Revenues have come in good. We didn't budget for that new sales tax, and that's going to be $625,000 at year end. What this does, several of you have indicated you want to go ahead and start setting some more money aside for the park and for the early college, and this will set aside $750,000 for the early college, for the school budget, school capital budget, and $250,000 for the park. We have already set aside $250,000. So is that correct? That's correct, isn't it? $250,000.
Mm-hmm.
So this totals $500,000 that we will have set aside for the park.
I think we spent the other $250,000 pretty close already.
Oh my. Oh yes, yes, right. We have. Yeah. Yeah.
Bought some land.
Land acquisition.
Question from commissioners?
Do we know what the early college is going to cost? Do we know it's gonna cost $750,000?
Well, their estimate's 1.5 million.
It has been as low as $500,000.
Right, but now with Building C, this does not mean you have to spend it.
Okay.
We're gonna work with the school system to do it the most efficient way we can at the least amount of cost to the taxpayers. But, and as y'all know, there's more than one fund balance. There's the undesignated fund balance. What's the term now?
Assigned.
Unassigned
Yeah.
fund balance, and we're at like 30%, and our goal is 15%, and then there's your total fund balance. When you
Our minimum is 15%.
a minimum of 15%.
Not gold.
Yeah, that's right. And what this does is reserve these dollars, so it will still show up in the total fund balance, but not in the unassigned fund balance.
And also, as this money is being moved, there was already a capital project set up for schools. This is not designating any spending. I'd have to come back with a capital project ordinance to spend for this project. This is reserving that money inside that school capital project fund.
For a specific purpose, though,
Yes,
For that specific purpose.
which is
The
something
intent,
which
yeah.
this board would be interested in, I think.
Right.
Any other questions? Oh, Donna or Mr. Lamb, either one, what would be the net effect if we chose not to do either one of those? Let's take, for instance, the $750,000. If we choose not to do that, where would that money then be?
well, 625 of it, we would have to transfer or be able to show that we're using it on debt service or school in this year's budget.
That's what I want to make sure the commissioners understood.
Yeah, yeah. So we would probably just want to set up a special fund for that Article 44 money. So this way, That's 625, then we'll take the other 125 from excess revenues. And we have accounted for that new sales tax.
Basically, we got part of the sales tax that has to go for school construction. And what we're doing is setting it aside for this project in effect, which I think is important for us to do. Now, to get it a nice round number, $750,000 million, indeed, we are taking some other revenue to put with that. He used the word excess revenue. I don't know if it's such a thing as excess revenue.
You got me last time for saying excess revenue.
But additional revenue from fund balance to put here. That would have been in fund balance.
And I would say that the early college is unique. It would be hard for us to go out and borrow money for renovations at Building C on the community college campus. It would be complicated. We'd have multiple parties involved. So a pay-as-you-go approach to this project. Obviously, when we do a new elementary school, you can't pay as you go. But for this particular project, over a 2 or 3 year period, hopefully this is enough to get us in Building C. But we're not going to get possession of that building until July 1 of 18. So during the next 12 months, we will be doing our planning and trying to get better prices at what the actual cost is going to be. So on July 1 of 18, we can go in there and get the building ready for this purpose.
Questions? Entertain a motion to approve the budget amendment.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Outlaw, second by Mr. Bellfield. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Ms. Wood, Sheriff Office.
Okay, I have one other one. This is really just housekeeping, the way that we budget 5 departments. So this amendment to transfer additional salary funds for court security from the sheriff's office. And as we look back, it looks like they've transitioned some staff during the year. And so it's just moving the money to follow the staff. So we're decreasing the sheriff's office salaries and putting it into the court security salaries. $3,500.
Any questions? Entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Combs, is that second?
I did.
Second by Mr. Bellfield, excuse me, Mr. Bellfield. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Wood. Item 9 would be a board of appointment to Brownsville Board of Trustees, which may be Ms. Dorsey's official last act as Assistant County Manager. Proceed, ma'am.
It's a big one, too. We've got one person who I failed to bring to the last meeting in June that needs to be reappointed before the end of June when his term expires, William Roeder. I think he's the chairman of the Library Board of Trustees, and he is eligible for reappointment. Katie Roach has recommended him for reappointment.
Right. No, we missed that last time?
Yeah, I did. I didn't have it on the list. It's a 4-year term.
Right. I know William well. He has an excellent finance mind on him, and doing a great job. Mr. Lamb just told me in that position, so entertain a motion to make that appointment or reappointment. Moved by Ms. Wells, there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Barnes. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Item 10 on the agenda is a discussion about the airport hangars that we have talked about a couple of times, and glad to have our airport manager join us today. Welcome. I'm going to pass out what I'm going to go over, which is not going to take long at all. I made 10 copies of it is what I have. You would pass one back to the manager there. And make sure that leaves me with one. Yes. To give a recall, we had a discussion, after a presentation by our new manager, a couple of months ago about hangers of some sort. I was kind of talking about T-hangers, I think. Some others may have been talking about hangers, but this particular presentation, for what it is, which I put together very quickly, is about T-hangers itself, and we continue to get asked about these. In fact, within the last hour, I've been asked again about it. But short and long of it, if you will open up to the next to the last sheet, which folds out, just for the benefit of the Board of Commissioners understanding what T-hangers are, I'm sure all of you may well know, but it's just a little detail there that says erected tube. You'll see that's just a manufacturer. You'll see what a 10-unit T-hanger looks like. It's basically just what it says. It's in the shape of a T. You have a completely open front when the door opens, and you basically back an airplane in there, and you can put 10 in a relatively small space. If you look at the next item on there, is something the airport supplied to me, which I appreciate, and if you look at the yellow highlighted area, that is item 6, is where the T-hangers, 6 and 7 are where the T-hangers are proposed to go on the master plan for the airport. And this, I'm not sure when this was updated last, but all of them I have seen for quite a while showed in that location. Just to give you a basis point for where you're at, item 12 next door is the current terminal building, just so you'll know where it's located. Any questions on location so far? All right,
I don't have a question on location, but what type of material are you gonna be using?
Material on all of them that I've ever seen Mr. Bell fill are metal. Metal roofs, metal sides, metal doors, everything about it. In fact, I don't know that I've ever seen a hanger that wasn't some type of pre-engineered construction.
Metal with steel frame?
Steel frame, yes, sir.
Okay.
The T-hangers are somewhat self-framing, meaning they do not have any large steel members in them. They're framed very similar to what mini storages are. If you've ever been in one of those, it's light gauge framing for the most part.
I asked that because, just thinking about high wind, it'll be strong enough to withstand.
We got them all over the country, and they have to be designed for the wind load for Pacific County that they go in, which in Nash County, we are currently, parts of it are 93, and some of it's 96, so certainly it would be designed for that, yes, sir.
I think there ought to be 100.
Well, I'll give you a number you can call, see if they'll change it to 100, then I don't know what else to say. Looking back, and forget the first sheet, that's kind of my summary. I asked for if there had been any cost projections from our airport engineer who's been with us a long time. They provided me with an estimate for the site work, which shows it to be $1 million roughly. Provided the estimate for a 10-bay T-hanger, which they showed about $623,000 cost. As usual, when I get estimates like this, I think they're overinflated, and I indeed did this one as well. I had recently, the next item in there, provided a price in an open bid situation for the Tarboro Edgecombe Airport on a hangar project that they had, and actually had current numbers. This was bid back in September of last year. And in that particular bid project, which I bid with Barnhill, they were doing the site work, I was gonna do the buildings. The buildings cost for a 10-unit was $457,000. So I just used that number. I don't think that cost would have gone up much at all since September. So just utilizing that particular number for what I put together here. Then I went to the site work takeoff that the engineer with airport had provided, and adjusted it to numbers that I thought would be more applicable to Nash County's past history, and came up with a site cost of $545,000. So it gave us a total cost estimate of $1 million to build those 10 hangars, put an engineering fee in there at 9%, for a total cost of about $1.1 million for 10 T hangars, which to me was higher than what I had in my mind that day by quite a bit. I already know if I gave a figure, but this I think would be a very accurate figure on the front page is where I'm at. I talked to quite a few of these pilots that had asked me time and time again, why didn't we put T-hangars at our airport so they could relocate their planes from Wilson or Tarboro or Greenville, wherever they are. And of course, what my question to them was, is what are you willing to pay for rent? And it seemed to be the maximum for the T-hangar that they would want to pay is about $300 per month. I guess your experience shows pretty similar information. So with that said, you got 10 hangars, that's only $3,000 a month worth of revenue. And of course, any of us in the room would know very quickly that you can't do a $1.1 million project with $3,000 a month revenue. So it was woefully short of being a project that would even stand alone. Certainly the county's not in any business to do anything that we make a profit at. We try to do those things that generally do not make a profit that other private sectors will not do. But in this case, it's just not feasible for us to consider being an owner of T-hangars without some significant help. So the conclusion that I came up with when asked to do this by the board was just basically we had to find some grant funds if we wanted to move forward with this. And running the numbers as I normally run things, we would need grants of about $700,000 to make this project feasible if we put county funds in it, so at least we could break even on it. So what my recommendation today would be, well, first of all, I would like to ask Mr. Lamb if he's got anything to add to it, because we had talked about this previously, and then I would tell you what I think we should do moving forward.
Yeah, I've had discussions with you and the airport administrator, and so I think we need to explore grant opportunities in order to go forward with this.
Anything you'd like to add? Ben, you're the expert in the room, and I'm a cost analysis on construction, but certainly not in your know very little about airports.
Sure, absolutely. I've run these exact same numbers that you did several times over the past decade, and you're absolutely right. It does not produce a good return on investment for T-hangars. Usually the best return on investment at an airport are large corporate box hangars. However, owners of small airplanes are not interested a lot of times in parking their airplanes with other airplanes for hangar rash reasons. So the solution in most cases is to include these projects on a transportation improvement program request to the state. And if it prioritizes, sometimes they'll grant the 90-10 grant where sponsors only have to pay 10%. And the state will come up with 90% in North Carolina's case. So we've included a couple of T-hanger options on our new Transportation Improvement Program request, which I'll be presenting to the Airport Authority tomorrow at our regular meeting. One is another 25-unit T-hanger. It gives you a little bit more bang for the buck, so to speak. It's about a $2.2 million project, but it's 25 hangars. So that would be a much higher return on investment. And it's on the south side of the airport on the existing GA ramp down there. So it would require less site work to do than this particular one, which is a holdover from our last airport layout plan, strategic master plan. So we're also redoing our strategic master plan to show more advantageous locations for those T-hangars so that when we do submit a grant to the state, it will be a much more amenable request. I've also talked to the Director of Division of Aviation, Mr. Bobby Walson, just last week, and I suggested the possibility of including this T-hanger project alongside, in conjunction with an environmental project that would rank much higher, and asked him if he thought that would work out, and he said he was open to discussion with that, which might help it score a little higher in the prioritization list, because we would like to build the T hangars where the existing underground fuel facility is. And that needs to be removed and mitigated, and that is high on my priority list. So we're looking at it strategically in hopes of generating a positive response on this grant request. And if that does, I would like to come back to the county and request that we bump that project up higher on the airport's priority list for sponsored local match funding, in which case we would share with the other counties.
Okay, thank you. And then
What
to-
are possibilities for grants? For federal aviation?
Well, anything at the airport is federal grant in nature, or federal and state combined.
Yes, in North Carolina, the state is the administrator of all the federal aviation grants. So not only does the state have a state aid to airports program to the tune of about $46 million this year, they also receive a block grant from the federal government, and that's about $30 million this year. It would probably qualify for next year, because they have already allocated for this fiscal.
Any other questions about anything to do with the T-hangers from board members? Y'all all have a dismal look on your face, Mr. Outlaw.
Well, I mean, I think his suggestion to go through the TIP process, that's the way to do it.
At least
It's
if
gonna
we
be a
tried
long
that way,
process, though.
it doesn't pan out, we could come back and revisit some other options.
Right.
Short of any other grant funding available.
Well, we all realize our airport is very underutilized. I think this would be one way to help that particular problem. It's one thing that I've been asked so many times over the years that I would certainly love to see us. It probably ranks pretty close behind internet throughout the county, but not near as important because it affects a lot fewer people. But I do hate to see our people in Nash County having to have their airplanes stored in either Halifax, Wilson, Tarboro, or Greenville, which is where most of them seem to be.
Would that fall out on the MPO or the RPO?
MPO.
MPO, because of its location.
Right. But we have built them over the years. I've built some in Wilson on 2 occasions. I've priced some in Wilson over the last 5 or 6 years 2 more times, but it did not move forward. This project that we priced at the end of 2016 at the Tarboro Airport did not move forward, all related to cost. I would, I hate to see us put something out to bid if we don't have funds reasonably available to do it, because, and we have built some at Roanoke Rapids, or at the new airport up there, but it was in conjunction with the whole project, so I guess it was piggybacked with a lot of other things when that airport was built, so that's probably how it took place. So I could see where it'd be very hard to go in and get grants funds for just T-hangers themselves without some other underlying reason for doing them. Any other questions?
Comment, this airport needs to grow.
It does. And this would help it grow.
It's been standing there too long.
Yep.
I'm almost at the point of being impatient and said, let's move, because I've raised this question ever since I've been on the board. I've been on the board 19 years. And I get thrown back, well, it's the airport authority, it's there, it's there, baby, not us. It's time to go.
Not sure what you mean by that, Mr. Bellfield.
I'll see a time to go to get that airport active.
Oh, okay.
And moving.
Well, I think we all agree with you on that, and if we have to spend, the tricky part about us and that airport is have many partners in it. And we don't have it as a Nash County airport, we have it as a Tri-County airport with municipalities involved, and it takes an agreement from all of us to move forward with it, and I think we indeed probably have the more keen interest of the partners, but certainly if we would come up with a proposal like this that would work, I don't think anyone would be opposed to moving forward with it. It's going to help everyone when we do.
Yeah, I think it help if we go on and move.
Yeah.
Because at one time, I can remember since I've been on the board, that one of the partners wanted to move in another direction.
True. Yep. Well, that's all I have for that particular item. Any other questions? Mr. Outlaw, if I could, I'd turn the meeting over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do our committee and special reports now. We'll start with Ms. Richardson in District 1.
Yes, sir, the CAC committee have added one new member since we last met. And I talked with the ombudsman today. Last month's meeting went well, and we will have another one tomorrow. So hopefully we will add another one this month. But right now, she's pleased with the way things are going.
I think we got plenty of room to add new members. I know
Yeah.
I've got one that I'm working on, and some of the others may as well.
Yeah, we have 4 now, and we would love to have 3 more to make it even 7.
Anything else, Ms. Richardson?
That's it, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Belfield, District 2, you got 4.
One, the Upper Coastal Plain Council of Government, they presented a draft of the budget last month, and we're supposed to act this month. We meet tomorrow, tomorrow at 5 o'clock. The executive board, and then the full board. Tar River Transit, at our last meeting, we approved to be sent to the state Department of Transportation, a system safety program which we were required to update. And we did approve the changes that were made in it, and it's to be sent to the state after it goes through our City of Rock, City Council, Edgecombe, County Commissioners, and also Nash County. Then it would be sent. There were some discrepancies in training of, as recommended by state DOT, and we had to do a improvement plan on that, as training the staff. When I say staff, meaning the drivers that drive the vans and also the buses. And that plan, all that has been done now, is got to be sent to the state for approval. Plus, we worked on the 18-19 budget, which is in the form of a grant, and that will be sent to the appropriate people, which is, that's 2 is DOT. And that's where we are with Tar River Transit, because I've already reported that the new buses that we have gotten in Rocky Mount for the city of Rocky Mount, all of those buses have consolidated diesel engines in them. Juvenile Crime Prevention Council met last week when I was out a week out of the state on vacation.
I made it.
Did you make it?
I made it. Had a good one.
It was a good meeting, okay. That's all I have. Farmers Market, it's moving smoothly, but we haven't had a meeting. We won't until probably December or January.
Ms.
Before we
Richardson,
have
do you
another
have any
meeting.
comments on the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council?
Well, as I said, we had good attendance and a good meeting, and they had some just good suggestions, and one I thought was, it was a question is, they had a concern with the name of it being Juvenile Crime Prevention, and they questioned why is it prevention when they service so many other areas rather than just say preventing crime. So they said, like mental illnesses or counseling and family parenting services, they have all, in other words, we talked about, we cannot necessarily change the name, but the way we advertise and present what we do, we kind of give them another idea, get them away from the crime prevention, look at other things that we do to serve our constituents.
Branding.
Yeah, and I thought that was real good, and they talked about that, so they're gonna make kinda like name tags, you know, and one side, this is what our name is, our service performance. On the other one will be where you can find these services and the names and a little bit of information on it. Just kinda another form of advertisement. So I thought that went real well, and that was something kinda hit me. Yeah, it's more than crime prevention. That's just one thing per se. But all these other things that they do a tremendous work, and they're working on improving, and they are.
One thing, that name comes from the state,
That's why they said they couldn't change it, but we can
It comes
advertise it
from the
differently.
state, and they got us divided up into regions. And they have a regional director that work
Yeah.
with
Yeah,
all the groups.
they understood that.
And that's gonna have to change it, it's gonna have to go through the state legislature.
Well, I don't think they were pushing so much for the change per se, but they were just trying to get ideas, how can we kind of get their thought process off crime prevention onto the other things that they do to serve their constituents.
I wish I could have been in that meeting, I would have had a suggestion.
Give
See,
it to 'em
because.
in
Well, you can always give it
Yeah.
to Mike.
Yeah, because when you look at the total, we're funding, what is 8 different
Yeah.
sub-programs under juvenile crime prevention. And those programs individually ought to be, the public needs to know about them.
That's what they're working on.
And that has not happened, even since its inception. And everybody look at it as juvenile crime prevention, when they're doing a lot more than just, there are some of those programs where the district court refer them to the program, rather than jail time for juveniles. And they do a good job, but they're limited on the number of youth that they can have in each one of these individual
Sure.
programs. The largest one is the one at the Boys and Girls Club. But in my opinion, because I have been on the evaluation committee several times for go around and look at these programs, they do a pretty good job of working with these youth.
Thank you, Mr. Belfield. Appreciate that report, Ms. Gibson, you and Mr. Belfield. District 3, Commissioner Cone.
Agriculture Advisory Board has not met since we met. Human Services Board did meet on June the 15th. They elected officers. The chairman is again Dr. Johnson, vice chairman is Bert Daniel. We talked about a dangerous dog situation we got going on in the county. We had an update from Department of Social Services, and that update, she gives us how many cases they're working on by class and what they are, whether it be adult, child care, daycare, foster care. And she also gives us a financial report, and they're about on target, and their number of cases are about the same that they were last year this time. We approved a bad debt write-off of the health department, about $17,600, which is normal, I understand. Updated some operating procedures. He gave us an annual immunization report. We had 217 flu cases reported in Nash County and 1 death this flu season. Veteran Services gave us a report. They had 190 cases going on and had 105 people with appointments in that office this month, in month of May. I think one of the biggest concerns is home health care and what's gonna happen with that. I'll just let you know that's, Mr. Hill does not want us to do away with it at this point. He's gonna try his best to keep it in black, but it is a concern, and everybody knows, you know, what's going on with that. But just to give you an update, because we talked about it, and it's a concern of the health department too.
Thank you, Mr. Combs. District 5, Commissioner Barnes. I'm sorry,
District
District 4.
The Nash Healthcare System Board met June 1st, and we were presented with the draft budget. The Finance Committee was not ready. They had some changes to make on that, so hopefully next month I can give you more information on what's going on with the budget. The staff has continued to work on improving the emergency department times, and they have some planning going on for that. I think that's about it with the hospital. Do you want me to say anything about the paramedics?
Excuse me, I'm
The
sorry.
paramedics? Do we,
Oh,
and this, now?
You have an announcement to make?
Well, it was a joint effort, but at our last meeting, Mr. Allen, you asked about the funding for our
Right.
community paramedics program. And Brandon gave a presentation to the committee at the hospital, and Brian, y'all helped fill out the grant application for the foundation, and I'm happy to report they met Friday and approved $150,000, so we can have 3 community paramedics now. So.
And at the July 10th meeting, we will get a budget amendment ready to bring that extra revenue.
The differential.
Right,
That would be 3 full-time.
right, and we estimate that at 210.
Yes, yes, sir, Donna, based on Donna's latest numbers, would be $34,897 additional dollars for the paramedics. And we were just going to absorb the other $26,000 in the budget for vehicle repair, protective equipment, uniform supplies. We feel like we can manage that $26,000, and that's what made up the $210 that the hospital got. So we would just need the $34,897 based on Donna's numbers for the full-time 3 paramedics. And while I'm speaking, Lisa said y'all worked on the grant. We were notified about the foundation grant pretty late, and Brandon, I called Brandon, and he really put in a lot of time into that. I don't think he would say he was solely responsible, but pretty much solely responsible. So that's why I invited him here today. I knew Lisa would mention this grant, and he has really put in a lot of time into this program. And this is the future of EMS. Talking about what Dalton did, we've got to do some preventative things to prevent these transports. And if we can do good in-home care for our citizens, and that's a great thing. So I appreciate y'all's support. Thank goodness we got that
Yes.
$150,000 from the foundation.
Yeah,
Good
we're very,
program.
very appreciative
Appreciate what Brandon and Adam are
of
doing. It's
all the work y'all
a
been
great
doing,
program.
and to the foundation also.
Is it anything still going on in the General Assembly concerning this program, Lisa, that you know of?
Well, there was a local bill, and we're still trying to hopefully.
He feels like he struck out with that.
Okay.
He tried,
It's kind of my understanding that's not going
That's what I
anywhere.
heard about it. I don't know if it was any update on that.
yes, sir, he pretty much told me that was not going to happen.
So you're gonna probably keep me under the table for asking this question, but it is, you absorbing part of it, it sounds like it's, the true number beyond the foundation grant is 60,000?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When you absorb part of it, is it tracked well enough, Donna, that we can still say our cost in this is X amount, so we can keep looking at grant opportunities to continue the program and grow the program? Or should we keep it a separate item, even if it costs us a little money out of fund balance, to make it a true picture of what the cost is? Am I making sense, Mr. Lamb?
We can, would you have a separate budget for this program?
We could have a separate department or org for this, and then we could definitely track the salaries and the benefits in there, and then if there are certain costs, and then we could see the
We could show a $210,000 department, reduce another line item in another department.
Okay.
by that amount.
I think it
Yeah.
might be important to have that number as isolated as you can.
I agree. That's a good
Okay.
idea.
And one thing, Mr. Davis, that, the vehicle that they share is a vehicle number that every repair, fuel, everything goes right in based on that vehicle.
Sure. Yeah, I
So
realize
that is a
that.
good way we can track the vehicle cost. And, of course, we know we have to build in some replacement costs, because that vehicle's, getting older, let's put it that way. We're gonna have to
Is
replace
that
it.
the only vehicle they've got? Is that?
Yes, sir. Is that share, that one?
I thought there was some discussion, thought about, funding a vehicle in this as well.
We had actually built in that cost in the original Duke Endowment Grant for a new vehicle. And we only got well, I hate to say only, but we got $120,000 a year for 2 years, which will not cover the vehicle purchase. And it does have about 200,000 miles on it, but we want to make sure the program continues, so we'll take the 150 from the hospital, the 34 toward the salaries, and then try to manage. But that vehicle is tracked. Donna's office, everything that's spent on that vehicle is tracked.
Well, we do that on all vehicles, don't we?
Yes, sir. So that's primarily the cost we saw, vehicle maintenance, vehicle repair, supplies, uniforms, and protective equipment, and of course, built-in vehicle replacement every 5 years, which
Some point you're gonna need a vehicle.
yes, sir.
We can pass that one down to Bill Hill in the meantime.
About another 20 years.
That's good news.
Yes,
Very
It
good
is.
news. Very good news. Ms. Barnes, you have anything
That's
else?
all.
District 5, the RPO TAC group next meets on July the 12th, so I don't have anything to offer from that today. This is a community report from Nash Community College. And Ms. Wells, I don't know if you got a copy of that for that night you were.
Yeah. Yeah, I had one mailed to me, so
Yeah, if somebody else might want it, it's pretty nice report. Nash Community College, at our last meeting, we elected Paul Jaber as chair, and Sonny Foster was elected as vice chair. So I think that's two good leaders for the board for the coming year, and I would just commend Mr. Dickens, Sam Dickens. I think Ms. Wells would agree that he served that board as chairman for multiple years, and he did an outstanding job leading that board, and we're all very pleased with working with Mr. Dickens.
And he said that he's getting an appointment on the state board. That's one reason he wouldn't keep it.
I don't have copies that might be adequate for everyone, but this is the most recent information on the Connect NC bond funds. It's broken down, this summary, in 3 categories: new construction, deferred maintenance, and the Vet Tech addition. As far as the new construction is concerned, nothing has changed from last report. The engineering and cosmetology buildings are $4,945,000. Total new construction bond fund expenditures, a little over $6 million. Deferred maintenance, there's a list of the deferred maintenance items, which totals $1.7 million. And Ms. Adrian Covington will continue to update me on a regular basis, and I'll provide this information to the board as to how that deferred maintenance money is being spent. The bottom category, Vet Tech addition, that is a planned 10,000 square foot addition. It's at a total projected cost of $3.188 million. Bond funds left from the Connect NC bond money is $1.085 million. So they have a capital campaign of $2.1 million in order to fund this building. And I think they've actually probably already started on that with something that they had recently. This is some information, again, it's not enough copies maybe for other than the board and a few more.
Question before you.
Go ahead.
start that.
If you have
On
any
the vet-
questions, just go ahead and ask them.
On the veterinary and technology edition, is that gonna be for associate degree in veterinary?
That's my
medicine?
understanding, Mr. Belfield. There's, I think there's 4 other vet tech programs in the state, 4 or 5. And, none of them are in this general area, so this, they call it a vet tech desert. So this would fill that, void for vet tech.
For Eastern
training.
North Carolina.
Well,
Yeah,
and,
very
and,
true.
and this area, I think the closest one to us is like Sanford, maybe? Sanford may be the closest one.
Yeah, Lee County.
Yeah. The last handout I gave you is the presentation that was made by Mr. Oakley at our last meeting to give an update on the engineering cosmetology buildings. If you've been by the campus, you see that that activity has started as far as dealing with the site preparation. The anticipated construction start date is late summer, with completion of the facilities expected in the spring of 18. And that then, Mr. Lamb, would tie into your comment about the Building C becoming available for us to start renovation, or working with the school system to start renovation to make that available for early college, which is also a great program, and it would allow that program to double in size. The plans are currently out for bids. The bids should be received by June the 29th at 2 p.m. on the college campus, and there was a pre-bid meeting on June the 14th. There are 10 general contractors that have received plans. They're listed on the handout I gave you, and they are expecting very competitive pricing on these 2 buildings. Any questions on that? I'll try to provide an update. The Nash Community College Board meets every other month, so I'll provide updates as I receive them or receive information otherwise. Broadband, we don't really have anything that we need to talk about on that today. Well, there's a lot we could probably think about, but there's nothing we need to talk about today on that. And that would complete the 3 reports that I've got. Any questions before I move it to Ms. Wells, District 6? Ms. Wells? Attorney.
Board development thing, I think Robbie could not go to the last meeting because he sent us outlawing his place, and they commented on how impressed they were with you, Wayne, and they
I
really
had
said
strict directions
that you
from
asked
Mr.
a lot of questions. and I
Mr.
just
Davis
didn't-
over there to write things down, in detail.
I know you 2 together, but I did think that since they commented how well he did and how much he asked the question, and the things that he asked made sense, and that they were very, very impressed with you, and I told them I'd be glad.
I'm
to pass
pleased
it
to
on.
know I was well represented, Mr. Outlaw. Thank you,
And
sir.
what they
Sir,
said,
and I
Mr. Outlaw done good for
appreciate
Mr.
you
Davis.
continuing to serve in that capacity.
The STEP has become very active since Pamela Good has become executive director. She's really pushing the thing. They're gonna have a meeting at Nash Community College on August the 12th at like 7:30 in the morning, but you'll be getting some things to bring together the players and the game with the communities. We'll have a panel discussion with Lars Coates is gonna be one of them, 2 people from the state. They're trying to get the fund, and what they're doing is trying to get the companies that are giving money to the STEP to come in and see where their money's going and what the things they're doing and how, what this board really wants to do is make sure we have a workable workforce. We're getting new businesses, we need to make sure that the children are gone from K, it says from K through 14, which means that would be 2 years of community college or something. And this is one thing they're working for. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wells. District 7, Chairman Davis.
First report I have is on the TDA Tourism Development Authority. We did have our annual budget meeting back in mid-May. I'm passing down a copy of the budget that we adopted at that meeting. The meeting went well whenever revenues are climbing, and there's quite a bit of funds that we had available for our next year budget. It makes the meeting go much better. We had by far the largest income last year that we have had since this particular tax was initiated, which was many years ago. We done a kind of pondered over why it increased as much as it did, and we basically ended up it was due to the hurricane and the number of people that were moved inward and stayed here for quite a period of time, and I was amazed. Donna, do you remember the figure we attributed that about $80,000, $90,000 worth of $90,000 worth of revenue that we received in TDA funds, and understand that's at 3% of what was spent. So as sad as it is to say, there is some good things that come out of all catastrophes. In instance, with hurricanes, we increase revenue in this particular area, and I know Mr. Hill won't say it publicly, but it always helps the landfill quite a bit as well. But certainly we just soon not have that extra revenue because it comes at a great expense to our citizens, and I'm sure we're paying for it somewhere else. But it was a very good meeting. We approved basically those funding items that we had approved in the past that made applications for them. We had one that did not make an application. That was the Rocky Mountain Down East cook-off that is done. And if you recall, we funded that last year. It got rained out due to a storm and did not take place, as I remember, and we had already funded that. So I guess they chose maybe to not ask or to come back or use that revenue and then come back maybe, and we encouraged them to come back next year for that. We added a couple of new items that we had not had in the past. Of course, Tackle the Tar was in its second year. That is, if you recall, a few weekends back. We do some funding for that for promotional items, and that grew quite a bit this year. Brings a lot of people into town that particular weekend. The Dunn Center made a request this year for $10,000 to help them with their show. They had made that request numerous times in the past. It had been 5 or 6 years since they made it. I actually, because I saw what revenue looked like, contacted Sheila Martin and just suggested she may want to consider making a request for that again, and she did. The Wesleyan also made a request to help them with their cost associated with the homecoming for the Wesleyan football team this year, and so we funded that at $10,000 as well. That was the new items that we funded, and also increased the funding for the travel and tourism, because it's basically a percentage of what we take in. They basically get 2/3 of that. So if revenues go up, travel and tourism's amount that they can ask for also goes up. And currently they have a pretty good reserve anyway, but they pretty much made a request this year for what was available to them. The TDA is in excellent shape financially. Fund balance, Donna, I didn't bring with me. Do you happen to remember what that is? You sent it to me a little while back, but it's pretty substantial, and we did about 623,000. Now that you started, I remember what it is, but and we did last year adopt a policy, kind of what the county has got, that it could not go under a certain amount, and the board was very much in favor of that. You'll also see that it reflects what we had done at an earlier meeting, but we were able to put in next year's budget the salary amount that we had requested at our January meeting, and the board had approved. So we got a little over $30,000 in there for the salary for the new person for business development coordinator when that person comes on board. And I think we're still working on that hire as we speak. So great year for TDA. Very exciting budget meeting, went very well, and hopefully we'll be able to grow the revenues. We did work with the school system this year to utilize a few more ball fields on the 2 very large tournaments that they have, which was this past weekend. The first one was Another one will be coming up, and that's Top Gun baseball tournament will be coming up in October. Wayne and I talked Saturday or Friday night, and Ben's he's got a son-in-law that's a coach at Northern Nash. I'm hoping that went pretty well for the coaches. It was something we hadn't been able to do in the past because the school system really wasn't interested in them using the field for that particular tournament, but they agreed to try it again, and we worked on the way it should operate and got them all together, and I think it worked out well. If you got anything to add to that,
Well,
Wayne? Of course, the weather did not help any.
The weather did not help, and I think all three high schools participated, four high schools participated. Northern participated the first day. Northern Nash, and I'm not being critical, I'm just stating it kind of the way it is. Northern Nash needs some money spent on their
baseball
field.
program.
They have got a drainage problem.
Right.
Their field was flooded out after the first day. They had already bought all the snacks and prepared for the tournament, so they ended up having to buy a pump to pump the field. The field was flooded yesterday when I went out there. They did not play Saturday or Sunday on the Northern Nash field. They moved the games into Stiff Park. I just think, I'm gonna talk to, maybe Miss Wilson or somebody on
Sure.
the school board, but,
Well, I've talked to her recently, and we're gonna get together very soon, within the next couple of weeks
Yeah.
again, like we did before. Bring that as a topic, we can talk to
there's
them about.
definitely
That's something you could, I
some
could
work
work
needs
on.
to be done out there. That school is 50 years old, and if you go out there, and I go to all these high schools, and if you go to Northern, there's a lot that needs to be done at Northern, not just on the facilities for athletics, but the parking lot. There's just a lot of work that needs to be done out there. But I want to ask you one more question on this lighting for Nashville, the interchange 5864.
Right.
I know where that is, but is there adequate lighting down there where the new sheets and that area is being developed out on 64?
That is the interchange.
That is?
And they have not been put up yet. We actually called here.
Okay, so I was thinking 58 up here at.
No, it was at that interchange, and they should be put up pretty soon.
Right, that's right.
The new DOT engineer told me about a week ago that we should be seeing those going up within the next 3 months.
Yeah.
We had budgeted for last year, they did not get finished or didn't get put up, but they are coming.
Good.
So then we would have all the interchanges that are commercially developed in Nash County that'll lit, and that TDA is paying utility bills on.
But just put a final positive spin on that Top Gun tournament. If they had been able to play at Northern like the other fields, that's a great thing, and it would have generated significant funds for the high school, just like it did the other high schools. So I think once Mr. Dunn went over that program with the coaches and explained everything to them, I think my understanding was everyone's very well pleased with that program.
Well, he had assured me after it was over with, they'd get back together again and talk about what they could do to improve it. But I do think it was a big step to get the high schools and that particular program back together again to be able to utilize those fields, because we were about that close. And Mike, you may know something about this yourself. I don't know how much you got involved in athletics, but we almost lost that tournament back to Myrtle Beach, which we really did not want to do if we could help it, because there's something like 170 teams in the weekend playing, and anything that TDA can do to keep it here, we're certainly going to try our best to do that.
Question.
Yes, sir, Mr. Belfield.
Has any figures been run on the impact of the Down East Football Classic, the impact economically?
We actually ran it last year, Mr. Belfield, from a standpoint of the way TDA looks at stuff, and which is basically heads in beds or room nights booked. And we increased our funding last year, actually doubled it from $20,000 a year to $40,000 a year.
Yeah, I see that.
And we kept the same $40,000 moving forward the next year. Honestly, the formula that we use, it doesn't quite qualify for that kind of funding, quite almost there. But we feel like in looking at it from a larger picture, it brings in the number of people that our board approved it unanimously this year. It was not unanimous last year. but it wasn't a close vote. Most of them voted for it, but,
Yeah, I was just interested, but it brings in a lot.
It brings in a
people.
lot, it does.
A lot of people are here.
they are indeed.
How many of them are staying in a
Well, we
motel?
found it depends on where they
don't
come
know.
from. I mean, this year again, it's federal, state, it probably really won't generate the room nights that it does with some of them that come a little further. So, but you got to look at a rolling average on something like that.
Yeah.
Certainly, it's a great weekend, and it's, you know, it's a 3-night event. Some of them are here for 4 nights, so, it's very easily justifiable. And it's, you know, this is the 20th year, I think, coming up.
What was that?
I believe it's the 20th year, if I remember right.
I think that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it should be somewhere in there
yeah, I
close.
believe that's right. All we try to do at TDA is keep Miss Bryant happy. And so far, we've been able to do that.
But make sure you help keep the university happy too.
Well, indeed, they were happy, and they made a great presentation this year. That they are doing more, they're presenting now than the local people are. So I think it all went well. Moving on, the Rocky Mountain MPO, did meet at our last meeting last month again. I'm working on the schedule on that because I just can't get there and have this meeting. I think I'll be able to attend from now on with something that we're changing. Really nothing significant, that I got to report from the minutes I got from that meeting. The Shell building, at Middlesex, Derek and I had worked on that quite a bit, and of course, Derek kind of ran out of time. We almost got it ready to put to bed. I think it's been passed off to Mike. I have the notes that Derek left me that he sent just before we left that you have, and you and I need to get together in the next week and finalize that so we can get it out to bid. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, that I wanted to touch base with you by
Right.
now, because we had gone, Derek and I had gone through that set and gone through, so I'm aware of his comments and just need to make sure I
I
close the
think
loop
we
on
can
getting it
spend a
done.
couple of hours together and finish it up, and hopefully have that out full bid within the next 30 days. Is where we are pretty much ready to go. We just had a little bit of a holdup. The only thing, Mike, if you could check with stocks, the last I talked with Derek, he did not have the site plan quite ready yet. And he's had a lot of time to get that ready. It should be ready.
We had a couple of minor changes to the way the gravel will be put down and where it accesses with the accessible entrance to the building, where the office will be, basically. So we touched base with him on that, but from what I understand, it was.
He's pretty close. Okay,
very
good.
close.
You predict 30, 45 days, we can have it out to bid?
I would think so, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on that? Go Rock improvements, not a lot to say there from what we had last time. The one facility that is under contract to be sold, all looks good. That is moving forward. So I expect you to see that happening between now and September. And I'm kind of not supposed to say a whole lot about the other one, Vince. Do you want to add anything about the other hotel, or you or Chief Deputy? Either one?
Negotiations with the owners and their attorney concerning potential improvements to the property.
Right. Yep. Ms. Richardson, anything you'd like to add on?
No, sir, you covered it.
Okay, but it's going well. We did at our last meeting select 2 additional sites to start working on because the state wanted to do them 2 at the time. We've pretty much done all our legwork on those 2, and one of them's turned out real well. I think with due time, the second one will probably turn out well. We've just got, because it had quite a bit of debt on it, it makes it a little bit more difficult for the owner to make it work. But I think we have the attention of the owner and certainly the attention of the financing agency out there that it's just got to get significantly better to be able to stay in operation. Well, I'm just gonna stop right there probably for minutes, so someone might ring the bell on if I keep talking, but it's going well. Mr. Outlaw?
Turn it back over to you.
All right, any other questions on any of the reports? Thank y'all. Now, our next item is a closed session for attorney-client privilege and personnel and economic development. Do we expect any action Mr. Manager, on any item that we would need to report after the meeting? Wait,
Might have one.
okay. Okay, one item to report,
Might.
and that is under what category? Contracts,
Yes,
economic development,
contract.
contracts, okay. All right, benefit of the press, it sounds like we may have an announcement after the meeting. If you're here, we'd be glad to report to you. I anticipate us being pretty quick, otherwise, Mr. Lamb will notify you. Before I close the session, Mr. Lamb, you want to say a few words about your long-term assistant prior to us closing today?
Yes, I would. Unfortunately, this is the last meeting that we're gonna be blessed with the great assistance and abilities and just one of the best public employees I've ever dealt with, if not the best. And that's Rosemary. She's retiring on July the 7th, Rosemary Dorsey. If there was any way I could prevent it or sign paper saying she couldn't do it by executive order or something like that, I would certainly do it, but unfortunately, she's paid her dues and she's given this county 20 good years of hard work, and we really appreciate all her hard work, and we wish her well in retirement. And if she ever wants to do any part-time work, she knows where to come. We're gonna really miss you, Rosemary. You have absolutely made my landing here in Nash County almost seamless. You really, you've made me look to be a better manager than I am. And
Anybody disagree with that?
and I really do appreciate
That's what I was supposed to do.
your hard work and your ability, your intellect, and thank you, and I wish you well.
Thank you. Very kind, and I appreciate it, and appreciate the support of this board and boards before you for many years. It's been wonderful to work with all of you. Thank you.
I know,
Yeah.
just a brief comment about Rosemary. When we were employing Z, I noticed that Rosemary didn't make application for the job, and I went to her one day and I said, "Miss Dorsey, are you not gonna apply for that job?" And she said, "No, I don't think I am." And so what else can you say? So we just left it at that. After about the first year Z been here, Rosemary, you may not remember, but I went back to you one day and I said, hopefully Z will be here a long time. But, you said you didn't think you were ready at the time, and I asked you that. And I went back to her about a year later and said, hopefully Mr. Lamb will be here a long time, but if something should happen and he choose to leave, I just wanted to tell you are ready now, and hope you would be available to move up at that point in time.
I'm glad he didn't leave.
Any other board member have any comments?
I remember Rosemary when she came as the head of the planning department located down in the A. Because that department was pretty much, I started to use the term turmoil, but it wasn't that bad, but it wasn't operating like it should, and it needed somebody in there to do it. And they got Rosemary, and she was one staff member down there that needed to be calmed down. You remember that? And she did. And so she's been a great employee of the county ever since she came here. And I enjoyed working with her when I was chairman. And we'd get together with the agenda, and then we run it by Z. And everything worked smooth. And she's very knowledgeable, and I really appreciate you when working with me when I was chair.
We did, we worked together well, and we'd go through the agenda, and then we'd solve the rest of the world problems after that.
One of y'all ever broke up that meeting then.
Yeah.
I guess all.
I know.
Any other words?
The best man for your job has been a woman.
Oh,
We
well, thank you.
appreciate you, I really appreciate the opportunity to work with you. You're a special person,
Thank you, Wayne.
very special.
Appreciate that.
You know we love you.
I do know that.
And we sure
And I have a
do.
giant banana pudding to show.
So do we, I'll make you another, let me know. And I'll, you know, you come back anytime, but we're gonna really miss
You'll
you.
get some calls.
But we've made a friend for life.
Same here.
What am I
Thank you.
gonna do with East Point without you?
I don't know. I'm hoping we get this thing settled before I.
Maybe it'll be
I hope
resolved
so.
for me.
I hope so too.
Show you her dedication at 7:31 this morning. I was gonna call a gentleman, first name is Roosevelt, and I inadvertently called the number above it or behind it, and noticed as soon as I did it, that it was Rosemary's number. Immediately cut it off, thinking it didn't go through. But at 7:41, she calls me, she said, "I'm sorry I wasn't in place, but what do you need?" That's how prompt she is. And of course, we had a running average that she and I kept. If I called and she didn't answer her phone, I kept up with it, and she was hitting about 88% for the last 4 years, I think, that she'd answer the phone 88% of the time you called in there. And of course, truth is, I don't keep up with it, Rosemary, but I always kid her that I was keeping up with it.
I tried to get it up. I tried to get my average up.
Before you get
I
gone.
worked on that average.
The average will be fine when you leave, I promise you. And furthermore, it won't matter.
Well, thank all of you. I really do appreciate it. It's been great.
Thanks, go ahead.
Can't complain about a thing.
All right, I entertain a motion for engineering services.
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve a contract with the Wooten Company for engineering services related to the Northern Nash Water Project in the amount of $501,500, subject to the attorney approval.
I second that.
Got a motion by Mr. Outlaw, subject to the attorney's approval. A motion by Mr. Outlaw, a second by Mr. Bellfield. Is there any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign, motion carries. And entertain a motion to adjourn the second meeting for the month of June.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Wells, second by Mr. Bellfield. Any questions on that motion? Ms. Richards, you got a question on that motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Any opposed by a like sign.